Morning, everyone. And I thought today that I would have a look at some of those possible other career paths that you could potentially go into after teaching, because you have so many other skills that you're probably not even aware of, and perhaps your family and friends have typecast you into that teaching role. And actually, there is so much more to you than that. So I've just got a few to share with you today. And there are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of possibilities. So I think probably what I'll do is, if I have this as part one, and perhaps then I can do a part two and part three, and just go on and on and on until we've got maybe 100 job possibilities in little video snippets. Maybe that will be handy for everyone to be able to see what sorts of things that they go into. Okay, so here are some ideas for you to start with. So first of all, no matter what your reasons are for contemplating transition, please be reassured that there are plenty of alternative jobs for teachers to choose from. So whether you're hoping to shift into another role in the education space or get a fresh start with something entirely different, you have options for improving your work-life balance for less hours and more money. I think sometimes we forget that actually our teaching salary, although it is technically stable and technically reasonable, actually we've kind of been capped at what we can earn quite often. And actually, if you break down what you're earning for the hours you're working, it really doesn't amount to much. So that's an interesting exercise as well, just to see if you can get a little bit more per hour when you look at other areas. So I'm going to start from the yellow one at the top, because tutoring is the most obvious option. And lots of people say, oh, why don't you tutor? Now, personally, for me, after 20 years of teaching, I was quite happy not to do any more teaching for a little while. Doesn't mean I won't in the future, but at the moment, I'm quite happy to stay well away from tutoring. However, if you're looking to do a role like start self-employment, or thinking about something else that you can't get going straight away, actually tutoring is quite an easy one to get into at the moment, because they're crying out for online tutors and tutors in school as well. So if you wanted to do it temporarily just to keep your money up while you looked into other things, then you could always do it as a short-term arrangement. And it's not just tutoring in your subject, it could be tutoring school avoiders or children that have been excluded. Also, it could be during school time, or could be after school. And also, if it's not your subject, if you're a qualified teacher in a random subject in secondary school, that doesn't mean that you can't tutor. You could always do primary school tutoring, for example, in English and maths, just something that you could learn before you teach it, basically. And there's plenty of online resources. Just get yourself a Twinkle subscription, for example, and all the resources will be there for you. And maths side of things, there's plenty on White Rose Maths with Maths Mastery to keep you going. So have a look around at what you can get and all those different options. And if you want to stay within education, you might want to look into specialisms as well and become a specialist teacher. There are lots of specialist teachers for SEND, for example, and social and emotional mental health and teaching and learning. There's lots you can do. So, for example, at my previous school, there was a hearing impairment specialist teacher, there's a vision impairment specialist teacher. So if you've got a particular area of interest, then that might be something to look into as well, looking for the local authority roles. And also, I haven't added on here, I don't think, no, but the local authority are quite often looking for people if you're into special educational needs or anything like that. They're looking for people for admin side of things for that, so sorting out the EHCPs, for example, and doing admin roles for that. So there might be something in your LA that will be useful for you to look into. So pastoral, you might not want to be doing normal classroom teaching, but you might be able to retrain in opportunities such as counselling or play therapy or art therapy. I always think these things are so beneficial and probably a lot more fun than straight teaching. So the next one is corporate training in any sector. So you have all those wonderful transferable teaching skills, and no doubt you've led a few staff meetings in your time. So whatever sector it's in, there is training needed for that sector. So generally what this would entail is working for a bigger organisation and finding out what the training is that is needed, the company will no doubt give you all the training materials, and it's just a question of learning that training stuff inside out so you can deliver it to wider audiences across the sector. So that's kind of one of those things that you have to kind of look a bit further afield to get into, perhaps getting onto LinkedIn, for example, and seeing what's available there. HR often accept education degrees. Now, we've all had interesting experiences with HR, and no doubt it would be great to have some more wonderful and compassionate people in HR departments who are actually real people and not just robots like some of them I've come across in my time. So quite often they will accept education degrees. So that's another one to look into. Copywriting and writing for Twinkl. Twinkl's always putting out that they need content writers. So if you like creating content, and no doubt over the years you've created 1,000,001 worksheets for children. So there's always opportunities to create with Twinkl and other companies within education. Childminding, if you've got young children, quite often it would fit around your family and isn't too bad to retrain in. And also just be less childcare cost for yourself as well. So if you think you can wrangle a few more children at a time, that might be something that would work for you. Assistant educational psychologists, again, if you are into special educational needs, you don't need to be a qualified educational psychologist for this, because that is very difficult to get into and requires like another degree, etc. So, I've already said specialist teacher, so that's there again. But educational assistant psychologists do an awful lot of training for schools and things like that. And again, they're not likely to ever become educational psychologists unless they do extra degrees, but it's quite a nice role if you are interested in special educational needs. Again, local authority work, as I've already mentioned. So that's another one. There's probably something within your local authority that you could do, whether it's admin based or supporting in schools. Coaching to support others in the sector or other sectors. So every area seems to have coaches at the moment, and there are loads of them, which isn't a bad thing, because actually everybody needs a little bit of extra support, I think, in where they want to be. So there are business coaches, there are teacher coaches, there are just general life coaches. The possibilities are endless. Of course, you've got your traditional sports coaches. So I think teachers are really good at this sort of work, just because they can really think about what they want other people to achieve and help them realise their dreams and their goals. And it's not actually too difficult to get trained in coaching. I've had a background of mentoring, so that was very easy for me to transfer those skills. But if you want concrete qualifications, there is a website called Udemy, and you can do an awful lot of courses on there and get accreditation that you can use and get insurance for by completing those courses. So that's a really good one to look into. Turning a hobby or a passion into a business. So this is great, although I did see a health warning on a website the other day which said, yeah, it's all very well, but at what point does the hobby or a passion stop being a hobby or a passion if it's turning into a business? So that's something to be mindful of as well. So if you like knitting, for example, you love knitting for yourself, you love knitting just for your friends and your family, and suddenly you're trying to turn it into a business and you've got to worry about people not liking it or returns, maybe your hobby doesn't actually become fun anymore. So have a think about that one. But if you can turn your hobby or passion into a business and think about it and do at it, then that's a really, really good thing to do. There are plenty of franchises around. For example, a friend of mine has a Tiny Sing franchise, and there's lots of phonics franchises around. So lots of educational based ones for preschoolers, etc., that you can get into. So you can have a look at those. So hopefully that's given you a bit of a flavour of a few things that you could do. And as I said, if I in the future do a few more of these and perhaps do, I don't know, 10 different careers every time, then hopefully we can just keep building up a list of different things to look into and other avenues for you to try. So I hope that's helpful, and I'll look forward to seeing you another time.